pyola, yube kapsola, kamsum korwala, lo tokore, kamsum korwala, lo madonna, yubiyomare, telatene, tamboti, lodo namba shis, tinge barto samuel tangus.
First of all, please motivate yourself with the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of countless sentient beings, our mothers, as infinite in number as the sky is vast, when listening to this teaching. And the teaching today is about how to practice the Dharma. And first of all, in order to be able to practice the Dharma, our intentions, our will, need to turn away from samsaric aims. And in order to be able to turn away from samsaric aims towards Dharma practice, there are 4 reflections called the 4 mind changes that Rinpoche says are definitely necessary to integrate. So reflect on these.
강아리에서는 다 당보조 단결이 예발까고 이 치와 메달까 이 레줄이 이 코르베님이 이시요레스 이 마라소 달바지에다 유바 끄다데 밀루르 톱 백가오 가와레 디나네 되는 자지 유비 때문에 밀루르 거기 시도 이 공부 이나야 다른 값을 받았던 나라서 밑에 고지가 제네 밀루르 다지 그게 밀루지 톱로래 이 밀루지 토라 만로가 제네 담배 취향 가지고 제tum나 이 디페메스 간도 친구 요레스 가르세나 단결 예벌가와티 백깔에 가고 인순다 방금 방발을 lud다 라마 모고 그때 까나요 안데스나 다 다와 제단 결과 끄던 데에 밀루를 보기 톱가와 같이 빼샤나서 양조 체진 야진기 부가 루벌 민주다스 다 빼샤나 양조 친구나나 근데 루바 미glong아지 유나 다 되게 미야고 통통 말레스 근데 거기 루벌 때 가디이나 때 잡되게 근데 신 이제 무무 요조 때라더니 뭐야 추투와티 코밍메도 메칼리 용거래 좀 충분하고 뭐 이제나 근데 야 고추도 말에 타마티니 고추도 버리스 대낭신께 나라서 유대인이 배 톱깔래하고도 톱 차발라 때니 이때 토라마로 와제니 담배 교양하고 지케고도 이 달지 여기 되면 밀루는 거 제송을 땡내나도 밀루 토바tam게 팽기면도 담배 교양하고 지케고도
Please think about thoroughly, again and again, these 4 mind changes. They're definitely, absolutely necessary. In order to be able to practice, you need to reflect upon preciousness of this human body, impermanence and death, cause and consequence of karmic actions, and the defects of samsaric existence. And among these 4, the first of these is the precious human life which we have now. It is caused by, it consists of the 8 freedoms and 10 riches, which is a circumstance that is extremely difficult to obtain. Very, very difficult. And Arya Nagarjuna and many other great masters has given various examples, metaphors to understand how rare it is to become a human who can practice the Dharma. Not just a human. And one example is this. Imagine the great ocean where there is no land anywhere. And there's a ring of wood floating around on the big ocean, tossed about by the waves. And there's a turtle who is blind and comes up, sticks his head up once every 100 years. Blind turtle. The chance for the turtle to get its head through that ring while being blind is as difficult as it is to become a human being who can practice the Dharma. It may try 1,000 times, 10,000, 100,000 times, or much, much more. And when it finally succeeds, that is the situation we are in now. We have become a human being, we have the physical support of a human body, and at the same time we are also able to practice the Dharma. So in order to treasure this preciousness of the human life, the thought to get out of this, the will, is I will not waste this life. I will not waste this life. I will practice the sacred Dharma. And that is the result of reflecting on preciousness of the human body.
Gevishini Lamaya Pujitin, Sama Doji Tibi Chuyang Tabaji, Tinan Sundegitini, Mondone, Masan, Sam Yindo Yamne, Takango Vimiti, Yang Tabaji, Miji Wanga, Project Tina, Jatingi, Lung Samjit, Huni, Tinu Sosorangi, Tini, Ta, Yamne Chini, Yang Taba, Rubala, Sudu, Nantuna, Tela Teni. Yang tabaji, ta yungu yore kanesuna tanjur nyebar kawa samjiki, te ta nyebar kawa yemba te haku, nye chani ngaransu miluti tuandan demba te sosorangi chegu ndusa, kandelese tanda kundu shuwa nangi, tambo tube dundoji, partu sabbe tena, tar gomkini nyamsulangu sontu, tambo te tuba chunu peyabu yore, te zunga tawa maluka chunu, tubi dundu. Pardu te soso rangi samlutani tini, tusamti che, tamati tini, lama kunjunda mengata, chida, tamati shuni, tini veshindu, tini soso rangi samlutantuna, tini peyaki yores.
It is not enough to this one time being reborn in a precious human body. It's not enough. Please make use of it in the most valuable way. Practice the sacred Dharma teachings. And the way to do so is to connect with a true spiritual master. And again, receive teachings. And begin with the mudra, the 4 or 5 times 100,000 preliminaries. And after these, go in retreat, practice the 3 roots, the recitation and the approach and accomplishment mantra recitation, and so forth. Go step by step. But in order to understand how to practice in retreat, we need to first hear teachings. Listen repeatedly to a lot of teachings from authentic masters, and then think them through so that we can become certain. It is through listening and thinking the teaching through that we can cut through the web of doubt and uncertainty and have the confidence of knowing how to practice when in retreat. That is really, really important. So first listen to clear away doubt, think them through to gain certainty, then practice them in order to integrate completely.
Ye tsani mashiki suchi bleng mari, 디 유다티 치와티 페 메다파티 다 내가 친구를 보니 내가 친구지 samutangurese teshana yangondodo taiki lama yangonama sumurese tada jikji nitu parorodo rangya nyuwara nyeto chibuja yuring dodap jepe nyingro lama cheno tuji yoto sese tada jikji nitu se jiki wala jiki tene chene tsepelo yorese rangya nyuwara nyeto chibuja ta ngaran yogo shido woyina 대삼로 마당 와지네 유릉부지 다른 세릉부지 대원 삼는 근데 삼로 땅은 되니 감바들을 때뭐 잡무뭐사 근데 제대로 닝루부지 닝루와는 게레스 유릉 도답 체베 닝루부 라마체는 투지경도 세스 영골로 다이기 다 단다 라마정보는 소문나지 당하란수 메타파티 다 소소랑게 르고라 lep차나 jiki wala jiki tene shilo yore ta te sama makorwa chene jik tserengu yung de tene pe mesi te trending yore te matensi ta ngaransu tamchi jiki wala yuringu de mo sambate sama makorse te korna ning rupo sene ning ruwa na hirese yung lolo taiki lama yung na sumo yore te taktore tene 또 메타파지 전남바 삼모야고 코로나 이니 최제야를 시라 꾸마치고 인그레스 가레스나 메타파지 삼모 마다나야다 남치웅 남레웅 테단다 남사 함마고나 다 유릉부지 체내용 다 유릉부지 간레메요 삼 이제 젠티그데 끼워오면 내다고도 세스로 남기다 나사라소 같은 데 지내야 노트도 라소가 타야 네 나사라소를 베신도 지를 도야 지를 마음고 용거 티치와 메타가 되네 딱 표현량네 세모타야 되네다 공평고는 신의 방통 마음으로 조바치고다 강공부에 제주 선로야 보다는 야고 따뜻나 열제 공부에 노래스
When we decide to use our life in this way, this life would become an authentic path of Dharma practice. The next of the four reflections is to think about the impermanence and immortality of all of us. The great master Lodo Tai, also known as Chokling Rinpoche, in one of his songs of poetry called Calling the Guru from Afar, he says that everyone is dying one after another, like standing in line, and the next one falls off, and the next one, and the next one. We see this, but we don't seem to notice that we are standing in that same line. And rather than accepting that we will die, we make one plan after another. First, I'll build a stable, nice house. Then I'll collect a lot of money for my pension. Then I'll do this and that. We have the expectation, like we take it as a given. We take it as a given that I will be here for a long time and have chance to enjoy, and then I can practice at some other point. Isn't that true? It's like we don't even question that whether it's possible or not. And Chokling Rinpoche said, it is like being spoiled, rotten from the inside, like as if one's heart is rotting. He uses those words, and that is we are totally out of tune with reality, because how long a life is totally dependent upon our karma from the past. But not only that, there are also something that can happen all of a sudden. We can be struck by an illness, like out of the blue. We don't really know. Right now, who has the certainty about how many days there are left, how many years are left in this life? We really don't know. So therefore, it would be much, much better to decide to practice immediately. Practice what you can, no matter which level, Mundro, Shamatha, Vipassana, and then go through to Mahamudra or to touching and so forth. In other words, don't postpone your practice to a later point. We don't know how long we live.
Ni tanda pondu shuwa na jingi metakpa de pe nenga chimori ti yin jugana chena ba tamji ki zo de metakpa de samno ya ku koptu na tambe chue kuma ne ngores kane sena nyama ngita lama mbu ki to den da ta samye gu mo na de tu sam hyu be kapsula ni yigi tin chiwa yong Rupala yapo tsuens, ni kindi yigi tini namtak tindi nana suna, ni gyalshagi yores, che chiwa yogo yungore, ta tele teni, rupa nyamnenti, te yapo chisi tindi, yigi mungu gyalshawa tindi, namtak nana yore, te nanshingi, te mitakpa ti, ta, ana su pundu shuwa nanshingi ti, chiwa ti, mitakpa ti tini, nyaga chimo imba ti, suzo rangi samno yangu yu kortu na, tini tambi chula pe, mese, ta, kansa ti pe giwe kurma chimbu ki yungu yores ta tanju pundu shuwa nanji hindu ta metakpa tu yundu samlo yangu kortu na ini chwe la pe kurma ta dila teni tambi chwe ti mache na shen kanya chea mindu ta ngaranso tambi chwe yang kapa ki dup yamne yakwa ji mache na ini lam dosa kanya mindu samlo ki nawa yungu it
is very, very helpful to pay attention to the fact that we do die. Everything is impermanent. It is like an inspiration, like a spur that will push us forward to actually practice. And when you look at the life stories of many of the former practitioners, how they applied themselves to Dharma practice, there are many of them who would write and notice to themselves, like a letter to themselves, and paste it on the wall of inside their retreat hut. And one message is, you will die. Death is coming. Practice the best you can. And then you will see it every time they look, they see that message. And it is very, very useful, because otherwise the days did disappear, and so Rinpoche says, please don't forget that we die. Use it as an inspiration so that you can make valuable use of this precious life.
Tini Nebartu Tilla Yichetan, Tini Lokeboji Gores, Anisana, Sanji Jum Dende, Guru Rinpoche, Tamji, Sungshabeki, Legu singing the years, Legu Mewatan, Marisun, Duku Tinju Mambuna, Sadu, Tena Kingi, Legu Nebartu Yore, Tilla to some Yapetuna, Tambe Church Vella. Kulmayang yang tahu yang Yoris, legu di mewah mana, legu di oni Yoris, Hindu kaji kita, kewa yang mana, tipa yang mana, legu di yang mana, kanga yang mana, tinggi mampu Yoris, tapi cur mungkin kita cur la kemana jadi dia kerja. Tangan so cur la yiji yu, cur nyamle ce, cur ke lam shuk sawa tela, itu ngebar tu legu di tela. Kena yang tahu cekung yore, karena le junde te nyamani kini sanji jom den dan Guru Rinpoche shar shubhe kapsulani onambe kini le ke namsha mangbuji sung yore, tela tene tanda padu lam tene logo yore mato, me kharji ki kide sab zom shawa tene mares, te kena matamji tele ichi chene yapo jene samye kanga wotumus.
The third point to remind ourselves again and again is that actions have consequences. What we do does matter. And nowadays, there are many people who say it doesn't matter. Good or evil really makes no difference. When we die, everything is over, there's nothing after. It's a very popular point of view, which is very hopeful, but it's not like that at all. And for us who have entered the path of the Buddha's teachings, we should not have that kind of idea. So throw it away. It really does matter. The Buddha taught that our actions have consequences, and so did Padmasambhava and all the other masters. If you want to know what you have done in the past, look at your present body and situation. At your present body and situation. And if you want to know what will happen to you in the future, look at what you do right now, your present actions. So, if it has happened that we have entered the path of enlightenment, entered the path of the Buddha's teachings and Padmasambhava's teachings, we should absolutely trust in the consequences of our actions, in the law of karma. It is not just a blind belief. It is really so that it does matter. It does matter, so we should be very careful about what we do and so forth. And being careful in this way becomes an encouragement, even more than before, to practice in a real, true, genuine way.
That comes from Korwan, Roa Rick took say, Roa Rick took like Nimet not so Mongoyo. And then listen, Mela Ye Ga Na Cheese, and we gave it to one, we gave it to one, then Nave to one, then Chive to one, Mela Ye Ga Na Cheese. Then Tenashik, Sala, Chipotung to one, then Yawala Satanga to one, Ida, Tekon to one, Tunduna, Lingu to one, then Tamain, Tapsu. Alate, Manasuina, Tape, they watch you, Sayu, Tamain, Tapsu, Tina, Yawana, Sadam, Nitina, Milatin, Jaganachi, Tundula, Lingu Duman, Idala, Tekum, Yawana, Sadam, Tine, Goa Rick to Potilla, Duman Manguji, Tina, Milaje, Ga, Nachis, Tina, Tundula, Lingu. Yalwala Chatan, Yidala Tekum, Titina Jinki, Samayina Tapsu, Tini, Tala, Chipodungu, Takashi, Layun, Jewa Lensum, Jewa Lemba Tamji, Yapu Yinayata, to do the go to do an Yata, Fadi, Jewa Lenita, Chibu Rus, Vinci Capsules, and Love Capsule, Junta, King and Lavagan, in metal, Tatango time, Levagan, Shayakan, in Kipu, Yapo, similar Antemba, the Shat, the Vindina Kayo Batam, the Yeti, in the half the thing, she owns that Tambatam, metal to the roof, think somebody, anything they give Mamu, Tala, to get money use. Yidala, take on to one, Yidala, take on to one, the country, or Peshana, about the Toa. We got it in it, Tanda, trouble it, and then you would in it. Yanzo Chumbukunaya, Kapuma Mata, in it, that today. Written to Senaya, and Lamsa for Maya Bana, today, Itala, today, one race.
Please do not think that it is some invention by people through the centuries that our actions do matter. The Buddha Shakyamuni described very precisely how each action has a particular result, and so did Padmasambhava and many other of the enlightened teachers. So trust that the law of karma is unfailing. The fourth reflection that Rinpoche requests us to pay special attention to is the suffering within all the states of samsara. That we now, as human, we have the suffering of taking birth, which is very painful and difficult, of aging, falling sick, and then dying. And those are the four major problems of human life, but there are many others. And in the other of the 6 realms of samsara, the gods suffer from death and transmigration, the demigods from fighting and strife, and as mentioned, human beings suffer from birth, old age, sickness and death, animals from being mute, from being enslaved or eaten by others, the hungry ghosts suffer from hunger and thirst, and the beings reborn in hell suffer from heat and cold. And we may feel when we are reborn as a god that everything is wonderful, because our experience unfolds as being in a wonderful palace where sense pleasures, they appear immediately upon thinking of them, and everything seems just beautiful and wonderful and very enjoyable. And that's how it is until the last 7 God days, like 1 God week, which is quite a long time. There's an omen that shows in 1 week we will pass away and fall down below. And immediately the flowers, they wither, everything smells, and there's a very deep pain connected with having to fall downwards after being in the God realms. And for example, when we are reborn as a hungry ghost, nothing satisfies. Even when one drinks an ocean of water, one is still thirsty. When one succeeds in eating even as much as a mountain of food, one is still hungry. It is that kind of experience that unfolds. And so it is in the other of the 6 realms.
이 야구 연구만의 삼박에 나와 샤고래 자 단지 공도 주반나 진기 로도 남바시 감순 korvallo 마도나 담배 주양 담바제 특고요 말 개인도 안경예바가 지와 메다바 레주리 코레이님이 대시 korvallo 로도 베타 티실라 이 구성 야고시에 텔라 딱제 땅 딱티 로 마도나 담배 주 tum사마레 공화지 섬는 또 등에 받았으면 이 제도나 이 편마인 그래서
So please pay special attention to the pain and suffering in each of the 6 realms, so we don't yearn in those directions. And that is how to turn our mind towards the Dharma. Because unless we turn our interest away from samsaric aims, it is impossible to practice the Dharma sincerely and in a genuine way. So Rinpoche says again and again, please reflect upon these 4 mind changings, because that is how to make sure that we are actually able, Rinpoche said before, not just to know about the Dharma, but to be able to practice from our heart. So please do not ignore the 4 mind changings. Think about them again and again.
딱 간다 본도 주원나 이게 또디 이 당고티 로도 넘바시도 도성명 보지시 이니 리베이션도 되니 주어야 로도나 되니 배야 보이는 거요에스 담 마시체 넘바 담제기 쉬어도 내가 너무 쉬게 단 줘봐 너무 인발에 진줄 따뜻 담제기 넘바 담제 조디 다 소소라나 삼로탄나 심게 내리티야 보이죠 보면은 이 조데 테스트 담게 공대 때 yap잖아 배매야 보면은 스테이들이 지나봐 담제가 심지다 근데 공대에 가면 이나는 게 테스트 남이 지나다고 하다 남이 주바게 렘베기 가나와 되는 이 뒤뒤 휴인스 마도니 지나봐 담제나 심지 티 보게 티 근데 마음보다 틴틴데 가면 기땅이 있네 지나봐 두바지 지나서 남이 지나서
Again, I feel that it would be very valuable for all of us, and I know that many of you for a long time, and I know many of you now are kind of senior practitioners, but still, please remind yourself of these 4 mind changings. They are very, very helpful in order to also practice. And so that was the major point I wanted to cover here today. Reflect on the 4 mind changings. And then we were able to also practice. So what kind of practice is it? The key, the heart of Dharma practice is, of course, to know the nature of this mind, of this consciousness, and then to train in that. I'm not going to be a pretentious Dharma master who acts like teaching Mahamudra or Dzogchen. Not at all. I don't have that pretentiousness. But still, I will ask, so I'm not going to give guidance in mind nature or teach Dzogchen or the like. And yet, I had been given the command, the direct command from my masters, and so I'd like to share just a little bit of the blessings that I have received, and so you can take part of that in just a few words.
Takin rikpe toto shakpe kato ungu mebe tongo sambe zimba ma hyuse tse semje mo tonga yin takin rikpe to teni debe ki samlo mata maungpa ki samlo mata tata keji ki ripa ki tawe tolo shakwe kapsola kado ngupo kiameba tongwani imbaji tongmo sambe zimbaji shuna digiyo mari zimba mashukwe kapsola tite semki ngo de neluti kyungse chitini moshin tukuyore tite namsha jujuti samute stana yagore.
I have received many times instructions on the nature of mind based on just 4 simple sentences by the great master Chokling Rinpoche, and also several times from our Lord of Refuge, Chokling Rinpoche. And I feel that these 4 lines are very helpful. Here they are. When you leave the watcher within their knowing, there is an openness free of color and substance. And as you no longer hold the idea, it is empty. That is the moment of seeing the nature of mind. In other words, you simply suspend this present attention without following thoughts of the past, without inviting any plan of the future, but in the present moment of awareness. Don't hang on to this either. Just see that it has no color, shape, or material substance. But don't hold on to that idea either, because the very moment you totally abandoned any such attachment to what and how it is, that is the moment that the nature of mind is seen.
다출도 랑게 셈라도 때베 메동 우고메 메베나라 ö지글스 다 빼샤나 셰고진데 때나 랑게 모통거래 됐나시 다출도 랑게 셈라도 때베 메동 우고메 메베나라 ö지글스 근데 셈게 모 내로라 따베 깝솔라 동반예레데 요레 티 tellan zimba 마요나 근데 대세 셈게 모도 통 다출도 랑게선다 때베 무동 우보메 메베가 카도 우보 찌안메바 동바레서는 zemba 마쇼가 저거래 되니 대세 셈게 모데 디두데니 통고요스 야 측순나는 데 까나요레 디테다보다 안 테다도 데요레스 디투섬야고 해고요레
There's another phrase, a piece of poetry that they taught, these great masters, which is look towards, look into your mind. When seeing that it has no substance or shape, let be, let loose, and be free in just that. And in other words, in this, when you have a mirror in front of you, of course you can look ahead and see your face, but instead your face is this way, so therefore look towards. And in the moment of looking towards, the nature of this mind is already shunyata. We don't need to make it emptiness, it's already emptiness. So simply notice that this absence of color and substance, and in this absence, relax completely. And the meaning of these 4 lines is pretty much exactly the same as the previous verse. And this is how it is. So be kind enough to remember these words and train in them. It will be very helpful.
tanda kondo shuwa naji zo te sozo rangi samlo tani iti de tes gom kyun nyamcha namto na pe pengeres, and the Pondipuana, Lama, Boku, test, Topiori, in it, Tamam, Mother, Tangarazo, Tampi, Cedilla, test, Namne, some year of Susan and the Tampan, some year of the Tigana, Yamaka, Tango, the Tang, the Chetuna, Tigana, so to Gom the Abu, the Japan, Message Penguins.
I know many of you have received a lot of teachings maybe from one master after the other, and that is wonderful. It is also wonderful when you also practice these teachings. So please pay special attention, and in particular, combine the practices with this knowing the nature of mind. So when you do go through the mantra sequence, the preliminary practices, and also when you stay in retreat, trying to realize your yidam, one of the three roots, and chant the mantra recitation, approach, and accomplishment, and retreat. Then combine that with this style of meditation, which is actualizing, right? In actuality, seeing the nature of mind. Then you will have really good results. So please do so.
Shamata the Vipashana Yidi, Pay, Tangun tea, sword over the years and the tea can the vision. That's a motive. Lela, Tesumemata, in my movie. They take Chinabata to some shady Yabuti, Kotuna, Yaburi, Karizalama, Poma Mamutu to Sumum. That's all tea, Suzorangi, Semki, Neluti, Yakuji, Moshe Sana, tea. Kala Rotuna, some year to break. Yidam Dugare, Khan Chenaya, Simgin Nelutia, which is two Botana, Pemba Jachamu Yusun, Manachile Diori, Te Yungri, indicate number Tamjiki, Teto, 2 Yundul, Yamnetila, Sunfu Chimbojanan, Suzorangi, Yikin, Kurvasing, Jawalenta. You think Legamu Chego, Yahaku, Sabu, Tunguri, Kanadevore, Osumo Tangore, Inayam, Nado, Mingon, Monda Kadu, Combe Capsula, that's Sumbeke, Sana Chu, Yamne, Tine, Comjavere, Mahidu Kiare, Sana Tingin, Namna Mandaravachino, 200 Tinyamne, Yahu, Nansuna. Pemba Jashimu Yungres, and then listen to Tandangaraso, City, the neighbor capsula, Galileo Mari, Chicago in Leptana, Tanganzo, Locasati, Semi Motion, that's a very Matin, Madoshin, some look where your money. He take capsula, Ranga Tavelama, Semi, Kujulaso, soon break it, Tamaki, that to Jenda when you let us to some plans. Yata, and they take soon from your name. He repugnan, that they go you. And they take Tatuna, Tinanaraso. That Yamata, Tana, Jita, Takayam Samari, Harrisona, Lama Tambeki, Sumbeki, Tamata, Tanga, Sum Sum Yuk Yamani, they take me, or Latan and Yamanchen and Devari. That and the cups of power said the Ludin, Diego, your mother. Shenkami, the Ludin, Diego capsule. Savilami Sumbeki, Dama, Rangi Semki, Yamnechi, Semu, Inga, Ripasa, Ingrid needed to send. In this was around the Samlotani, Ripanana Shatuna, Pemba Jachimu Muyores.
train in the mudra, then yidam practice, and combine that with training, especially in equanimity. And here, equanimity refers to remaining evenly in knowing the nature of your mind. That is the heart of all the Buddha's teachings. But it needs some support in order to be stable. And that support is called shamatha and vipassana, stillness and insight. And stillness and insight are two aspects of practice as a basis that we need to pay special attention to. So please learn these and try to bring them into your practice, because then it becomes possible to progress in Rigpa also, not just to recognize. And the other practices as well, Mundro and Yidam practice, will make us really progress. That is how to embody all the levels of the Buddha's teachings in our own practice. I do know that, and I do accept that your lives are very busy. You need to eat, and you need to have clothes, a place to stay, and so forth. But isn't it also true that we do have some free moments in our lives? Use them to practice and to progress. That is really important. And especially in each session, bring in the knowing the nature of your mind and become more and more stable that way. Because there will come a time when we leave and enter. In other words, when we change body. In other words, we go out of this body and then into some new one. And usually that fills people with fear and worry. There's a lot of worry connected with dying. Strong fear. But for someone like you, as you become more and more familiar with the unity of yin and rigpa, basic space and knowing, the spacious knowing, then the fear will become less and less. And I can assure you that when the time comes to die, the stability in knowing this spacious nature of mind will be very, very helpful. So please, don't forget this.
that's soon became Mena Zo Teredi. That's Nazuina, that Dhamma Ninguda. That Teleteni, Nia Lam Sama Yam to Kuyo. It so this Lamesumba Damate to some of Majabati to you to Shami Dena, Beakumuri. Think Nala to the Monsunum. Sindela Manguchi, Kiduta, Dumalta, Manguchi Umbrete. Tindu Tamje Samu Mago. So, Yamne Morte Shaba, simply Morte Vati. In the minute, take your answer, Tam Majabachi Sumade, Tinashin, take this solar and Samaya Tantuna, Nagachamboyori, and it is a simply Morte, Kebatam Japan of Mari, Moranto to take, Takito to take, Ding Toto to Jasa, Sunda with you. Simply Morte, the Tavatam Japan, Moranto, Takito to take, and so ranking. Mangoji Sambatani, Tilla Sundu Cheni, Gom Mangoji, Yaman Mangoji Cheni, Tilla Tizum the Tower Pache, Ding Toto the Jazayata, Mamma may soon be done at not telling something similar to the Toso. Tani Tani, Nimatine Sunditana, Tani Tizum the Tower Chubai, Tat, Yamne Rana, Tatena, Midiba Kaya Midu Sambeki, similar to you, Moshe, the Shensana. Titutini, Susan Medieval Dingy Yotsana, Titutini, Tata Motion Yori, Tit Yapoti Samoton Kanam, Tinaji, Chen, some of the good Tantuna, Pepsi Yori, Indugana, Nitanda Pondushuva Naji, Zoti, Samodia Pussy, Gomdia with Yap, Titutu Kadu, Comnati, Semki, Neluti Yapotis, Tilla Samotani Detuna. Lama Komatin, the Dhamma Sumba Najiki. That did social ranking. Choosing Yamne Dinana Detona, Messiki, that Chilapchipota. Udentiable. Did you eat when that Demba? That's a Chica Perdola, that Telelasiki, that Lame Dhamma, Telelasiki, some Korea Meva. That take capsule. That don't give us some show about Yarangi, Lamsan, Mosheva Samiki, was a Mosheva Naji, Amaki, Poo, Ama Mosheva Naji, was a Mabu Motes, Tina Hingi, Ranking Moshe Mure, Shensona, Nanas of Pepper Judge Mure, that's all China by Chenium, Najeva Capsula, Gomtia with Yap, send it, Tansan, that said it, the movement, Metapare. Movement, new movement, combat on any young which is not to
When it comes to actually training in knowing the nature of mind, you only need to think of one other thing. That is your root guru, and every time you think of the root guru, receive the blessings, again, acknowledge the nature of mind and let be in that. That is very, very useful. So what I would like to say in addition to this is that it is not enough to recognize the nature of mind. It's not enough. We need to also be sure of it, to cut through the web of hesitation and doubt and uncertainty. So therefore, I know that you will meet other teachers. Receive again and again and again more teachings about the mind essence. It is the core of all the practices, or within all the practices. So while doing Dharma practice, also make room for recognizing the nature of this mind. And not only during sessions, but in every so often, no matter what you do, where you are, again and again, pay attention to what is the nature of this mind. And then just let be like that. That is how to become more and more stable. So first recognize. And it's 100% sure that that is not enough. We need to be certain of also So to decide on one thing, that's it. And that comes through practicing. And after the deciding that this is it, this is really the nature of mind. And that comes through asking repeated questions when you meet the real Dharma masters. Ask them questions. How is this experience? What it is I experience now? Is it really like that? And be free of more and more uncertainty and vagueness about how this nature really is and how to be like that. And then at some point we arrive at what is called unshakable confidence. Unshakable confidence. And at that time, there is no longer any room for fear or worry about anything whatsoever. So we can pass away simply within that, within the state of naked knowing. And Rinpoche says he can assure you that you will be able to die very peacefully without any worry in the world about anything. So this is a very, very important point to remember and to keep at the core of your heart. It's the most important practice of all. And I have learned this from my own masters many, many times. And it is not enough to get teachings just once or twice. You need to learn more. You need to study more. And until you are completely free of doubt. And then at that moment, place more emphasis on experiencing and become stable in experiencing the nature of mind until you have unshakable confidence. That is so important. Stability, confidence are not just myths or stories from the past. I know many, many practitioners normal people who received teachings, practiced Mundro, didn't practice, trained in approach and accomplishment, and combined that with knowing the nature of this mind. And trained in that, not just a little bit, but made it the heart of their life. And were able to die without any attachment whatsoever, not holding on to anything. No fear, no worry whatsoever. And therefore their samadhi at the moment of death could be undisturbed, undistracted, lasting for several days, 3 days, 2 days, or half a day. This is not something that only you can read about in old stories. I've witnessed this many, many times. And we are of the same type of human beings as the other people Rinpoche has met. So please take this very personally. We can be like this as well. Not only those guys. We are also people. We can understand what's being said, and therefore we can apply what we understand. And so Rinpoche says, I feel this is a really good idea, that we take those teachings personally, apply them in our lives, make recognizing mind essence, and especially Guru Yoga. Just remembering the Guru, remember the key instruction, and then apply that key instruction. And we'll be able to pass away in a wonderful, fearless way. Please remember this.
Tati tanda kongo shuwa na yin zo tena tu sam shene te ti gyundu te agoji sam kampuna te lamna peya kundu yori tena ba tu gyundu te samaya ba kansho ni kongo shuwa na yin ta mangbo jik tu sam che mangbo jik toba che mangbo jik samlo kani teni tu gyundu la nyane ya ba che ma kamna dikini tu zo te semge nelo toba ya te tine rinpoche do nyamlen tela tene tini sosoran kanche kuwa te chatan tine hako ngures nyamlen de yako chi tuen to mato na le chawa kanche na lam kabu do mari so tine kom shuwa ni semge nelu de yako chi tuen kom yako chap ko semde kane chung parto kawa nege tama kawa dogu tenzo yako ta 중년 로스미 사이에 조다 좀기다 조 오늘도 되는 투삼 시에도 소소라니 이마지 소소 되니 있잖아 뭐 선비모 내로 됐다 데레도 그 바탕에 타와 그래서 다티 그래도 gem바데 데도 공 소소한 게 셈는지 레베신도 더 똑똑거리 더 똥나 대응하는 로트나 뒤균도 tila gom jamni ije chena mesi yangtaba jiki zo tini yungu yores karesan gom ti nilu tuen mato na jiri yo mara tuen to chadni tini semji ki mo la tanda kondo shuwa na ji tetu tanda lama mambo sofa chenpo mambo gom tugenta dama mambo sungenta sungwa zo te semgi nilu te tuen to chana teke tawa ngana detu na tene yanga jita kaya yungu mari nilu tela detu na tene zo tene chene tene nigeshinu yamche kumpe dogu yo sung yori tena hingi tene lotu grace.
Apply yourself in this way, I have just mentioned, and you will have a very good journey from now onwards. And that is not the same as just collecting teachings and compiling days of practice and numbers of recitation, and then spinning a lot of ideas about what the nature of the mind is. That is not called progressing on the true path. What we should do is exactly what Rinpoche has said here, which is in a very genuine way from the heart. Learn the Dharma, practice it from the heart, and then we will have good results. But as a support, in order to be able to know the nature of this mind, we first have to find this mind, this thinking mind. Where is it? Does it come from anywhere? Does it go anywhere? And then spend time on researching and tracking down what is this mind. And once we find the mind, then look into its nature. Then we can become free of any doubt. And there is a moment at some point when we recognize exactly how this mind is. And that can be called a little realization, just a little bit. And that is also called the view. And it is the view that we can train in then in order to attain stability. So first recognize the view of mind essence, then train in that and become and attain stability. This is what I would like to tell you is the key of the true path. So don't forget that. In short, look into the nature of this mind, recognize it, and train in it, and you will have good results. It will go well. In short, that's it. We will meet again and again, and I'll be happy to share more instructions with you in the future.